Every dream can become a plan, and they got louder and louder and closer, and I turned around to see about a dozen of these wild dogs just being focused. You need to be totally selfish with what you think about. You need to think only about you and your support crew. Nothing else in the world matters. In many ways, that promise has defined my life. The most exciting thing of all of them is, over the last 3 weeks, is delivering my letter to number 10 early this week on Monday. It's the most unpredictable place on earth, and it just picks up, and I couldn't see any red flags. I just had to stop.
Hi there, welcome, and I hope you're well today. I am so excited, and this has been a long time coming, because today I'm speaking with a very special person. It's Louis Alexander. Louis is a 24-year-old British explorer and adventurer, storyteller, and he has done some incredible challenges, from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, from swimming from Europe to Asia through one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, to his latest challenge that he's just done, and that is running 7 marathons across all 7 continents, that just blows my mind. He's doing this all for a cause that is really close to his heart, which is dementia, Alzheimer's research. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Amazing. And you've already raised tens of thousands of pounds, haven't you, Louis?
Been very lucky.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
Oh my gosh. And it's safe to say you've had a really busy year.
It has been. It's been. Well, first, it's great to be with you, Mo. This is amazing. What an opportunity. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
I know it's a really exciting moment for you as well, in your chapter, so it's special to be a part of it. But
thank you.
It's been, a strange 3 weeks since getting home from Antarctica.
I was about to say, it's just the new year. We're literally starting afresh.
Yeah.
And along with all these incredible things that you have done, you have signed with your first agency as well. Mm-hmm. You've appeared on multiple podcasts, now mine being one.
The big one. No, this is the big one.
The big one, absolutely. And you've also done a few TV appearances. Mm-hmm. You've done ITV News. You've been on BBC. You've been on Sky. You've actually just come from an interview with GB News this morning with Peter Andre. That's just fantastic. But no, go! I want to hear your.
Been very lucky.
Was it like? Was it amazing?
It's amazing. It's just been an amazing few weeks coming home, and this is what I dreamt of when I started these adventures, and they were a hobby. Was the truth is no one knew what I was doing.
No.
And now being able to come home and share some of these stories, that's where the impact comes from. Yeah. And the most exciting thing of all of them is, over the last 3 weeks, is delivering my letter to number 10 early this week on Monday. That's what it's all about. It's the impact, using these adventures as a platform for something bigger than myself. That's what really matters. It's not about the challenges. Sure, the challenges are great. They're great for me, and we can talk about them and all things, but what it's really about is what's behind it, and that's the impact.
You've just touched on something there which we're definitely going to come to later. You went to number 10 Downing Street this week. Oh my gosh, it's just incredible. From when I always see you and we chat all the time, like, this seems to be like the moment now that you've kind of waited for. Your career has taken you to this moment, but we will definitely chat about that, because I really want to get in to know what happened. But I want to know where it all started, Louis. Like, what was the beginning moment for you? How do you get to becoming an explorer?
Well, it's a strange title, right? Explorer.
Yeah,
it's still one I'm getting used to myself. But it all started when I was 19, took on my very first adventure, and it all goes down to a promise I made at my granddad's funeral. So my granddad was Captain Rick Taylor. He served in the British Army for 38 years. He served all around the world, but it was his 17-year-long battle against dementia which ended his life. And I had the huge privilege of speaking at his funeral. And there, in front of family and friends, I made a promise to support this fight against dementia until the day we find a cure. And in many ways, that promise has defined my life. And that was 4 or 5 years ago now. I've climbed a few mountains, done these swims, and most recently this running project. But that's where it all started. I went off and I found out it was my grandfather's dream to climb a mountain in Africa called Mount Kilimanjaro. Tallest freestanding mountain in the world. Yes. It's one of the 7 summits, and I went out there to climb for him and to hold his name on a flag at the summit. And in the process, I returned home with something for myself, which was this newfound gift of adventure and a passion for expeditions and climbing and swimming, whatever it may be. It changed my life, and that promise has just grown stronger and stronger with everything I do since. Yeah.
So were you only ever going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro just because it was what you wanted to do for your grandfather? That was it for you? That was all you were going to do originally?
It was. I found out, I think when I was 18, shortly after finishing A-levels, that it was his dream to climb the mountain in his retirement, but he didn't have the opportunity because he was diagnosed with dementia when he was just 58. So,
oh my gosh, that's mad.
So young, right? 58.
My mum's 58. Oh my word, I did not know he was that young.
Super young. I mean, some people are diagnosed in their 40s, 30s. Dementia is not an old age illness. It can affect anyone. That's the truth. And when I decided to go out there and climb it for him, it was just to do one expedition, and I was going to crack on with my life, whatever that might be.
Oh my word, I did not know that.
Came home, I think, for about 3 years. The hobby built. I got into a few ultra marathons and some smaller sort of mountaineering challenges, and then just over 2 years ago, I went full time.
And like, you've done so much in 2 years. You are 24, Louis. Like, some people, I do not know any 24-year-olds doing what you're doing. A lot, especially at this age, everyone doesn't know what they want to do yet, or are struggling. They're in a job they're not enjoying. And then there's you just, off running a marathon around the world. What do your family think of this?
Well, you're very kind. Thank you, first of all. I think so many people are doing many greater things than me. So there's many people out there, trust me. I think my parents are hopefully proud.
Oh, without a doubt.
Well, I hope so. And things like this morning, mentioning my granddad's name on GB News and all these things, it's keeping that fight alive and for hope, because that's what I'm fighting for, right? Trying to remind those who are affected by dementia now, because it's not just about the people who are diagnosed with the illness, it's their families, it's their carers, it's their researchers, and this illness affects so many. So all I can hope is I'm giving is hope to these families and to my own family that my granddad's name is still being honoured, and we're doing everything we can to support this fight, because it's a big fight, right? 1 in 4 hospital beds are currently occupied by a dementia patient. It's just the most devastating illness, and this promise has defined my life, and I will continue to support this fight until the day we find a cure. And I'm no researcher, I'm no scientist, I can't find a cure that way, but what I can do is hopefully use these adventures as a platform for something bigger, and to raise that awareness, to raise those funds and those donations, which are so important.
Have you been able to visit any families who are suffering with either a family member who are suffering with dementia? Have you been able to visit people and being able to tell them what you're up to and how, because it's so big, and you don't hear that on the news often. Many people, I didn't know that people were being diagnosed as young as in their 40s. Like, you're not even halfway through your life at that point. I just wonder if you've been able to visit someone who is suffering with that, and they can see that you're doing this incredible thing by devoting your life to support this cause.
Well, I've had hundreds of people message or comment, explaining their own stories, and actually the more these challenges are starting to get that little bit of awareness, people hopefully are seeing that. And I remember my first challenge when I went full time, which was to run 17 marathons in 17 consecutive days. In honor of those 17 years my granddad lived with dementia. When I went full time, I knew I had to do two things, something firstly big to get the momentum, get sponsors and press on board, but also something to honor my grandfather, because he was the reason I first found that passion. And I decided to do 17 marathons back to back. And throughout the 17 days, I made it public so people could come and join for 1 kilometre for the whole marathon. And I had kids from 2 or 3 years old running a little lap with me around these running tracks. And I was doing all around the UK, and I had lots of people come up to me and explain their own stories about their mum, about their wife, about their it's devastating. And when people talk about it, it just reminds you of how real it is. Because
I would sit and cry if someone was sat there telling me about... I really do. I lost my grandmother to dementia as well. And it's like,
so sorry,
oh my word, it's the worst way to go. I really think it is, because you lose the person twice. My mum always said that. She was like, you lose the person twice, and it's just so awful.
Yeah, so, you're right. The day they get diagnosed, and then the day that they sadly pass. And actually the open letter, which I delivered earlier this week, it reads, let's give those, hope for a cure, and not just a death sentence when they get diagnosed, because that's what it is, unfortunately. And unfortunately, there's also a big issue in this country where 1 in 3 people, in England with dementia are never formally diagnosed. So, which is devastating, because that means 2 things. Firstly, people aren't getting the treatment they deserve right now, the care. You need professional care, as you know. And secondly, it means when these life-changing treatments do become available, 1,000 people are going to be missing out. So there's so many things to fight for when it comes to dementia. It's a huge issue, but one of them is diagnosis, and that's one of the things I've been fighting for recently. But it's a devastating illness. Yeah,
it's awful. Do you know do you know the process of diagnosing someone with dementia?
Well, there's many ways of doing it. The best way, I'm no professional, but I think the best way is through brain scans. But one of the ways I've been fighting for is I've been asking for £16 million from the government, which would increase lumbar puncture tests from 2,000 a year to 20,000. So when I delivered that letter on Monday, I left the decision now in the hands of the PM and his government. And let's hope we've done enough to get their awareness, because I think this is a deserved cause.
Absolutely,
and £16 million is a lot of money. But when you compare it to the difference it could make, increasing tests from 2,000 a year to 20,000.
Yeah.
It's so worth it.
It's not even like a rare disease either. Like you say, there are so many people suffering with this right now in the UK, around the world.
It's the biggest killer in the UK. Dementia.
It's the biggest killer?
Yep.
No, I did not know that. Oh my word. When you're in the middle of doing your challenges, Louis, do you ever get the moment where, say you're running a marathon, you hit the runner's wall and your mind, your body are just telling you to stop? You think, I don't know how I'm going to carry on, go any further with this. How do you continue to break your limit and push through any of those thoughts and get your challenge completed?
Well, there's definitely times where the body wants to give up, but there's definitely the mind doesn't. And the mind can carry the body through some pretty amazing things. And actually that 70 marathon 70 days is a perfect example, because the first 9 days were really smooth. I was actually somewhat enjoying it, which is a strange thing to say, especially from someone who's I don't consider myself a runner. And then on day 10, I woke up with shin splints, a chest infection and a fever, all in one go. And my mum, bless her, my mum was chief support crew on my first adventure, and she woke me up on day 10, and I woke up in shivers, and I couldn't even stand up. And she said, do you want to go outside and run today? I said, no. I said, well, do you want to quit? No. Well, you better get up, son, and get out there. Oh, wow. And even talking about it gives me shivers now, because it was such a defining moment, and I had to get up that day in the first 5 kilometres. And you're a runner. I remember running with you in Portugal.
Oh, Louis, I'm not a runner.
Yeah, you are. But let's put this into perspective. The first 5 kilometres on day 10 took 3 hours. My dad
probably sounds like how long I would probably take.
No, it wouldn't. I know you're much faster than that.
I think you really would.
I remember.
Oh my gosh, that run, when you're just running, it's...
But yeah, 5 kilometres, I couldn't even stand. My left leg was like glass. And my dad was calling up all these physios around, and no one would work with us, because they said, we're not working with him if he's still running. And I said, well, I don't want you to be part of the project if you don't understand how serious this is.
No, he's got to run.
Yeah, so I think that day in the end, we managed to get some wraps around my shins and things that ended up taking 8 or 9 hours. And then things started to improve, and I worked with a brilliant lady called Kaz, who's a friend who, she's a previous medic in the army. She taught me how to wrap these sort of pieces of like ice almost, ice packs around my shins, and we could numb the pain. We couldn't fix the problem, we could numb it so I could get to that day 17. But trust me, the body wanted to give up every single... I mean, it was giving up on day 10 when you wake up in shivers. It's not a healthy thing. But the mind was far stronger. And those conversations where people come up to you and be like, what you're doing is for my mum or this person, whoever, that's pretty inspiring. And that gives you that sort of purpose that you need. And purpose is such a powerful word, but it also gives you responsibility. And responsibility is one of my key words, because when you're in that moment, you've committed to doing something, and you're doing something that's not just for you, it's for other people.
Absolutely.
You can't quit. You can't put the blame on anyone else. You've decided. It's also now, very luckily, my career, because I've got some incredible sponsors who are supporting me, and I do talks for them when I'm back home and in between expeditions. So it's bigger than just me now. But pressure and responsibility, purpose. Those are the words that stick out when things get tough, because things always get tough, and we all go through difficult things in different ways. Yeah. And these adventures are no different. And many of the lessons I've learned on these adventures, I think, could apply to hopefully to anyone in any setting, in any job.
You meet so many people through doing this, though. So what I'm like hearing is like all these people. Imagine never met that lady who was just like, look, just numb the pain, just get on with it, and then we'll sort it later. Because, like you say, you feel the responsibility of having to carry out these missions that you're doing, and they can be brutal. Like seeing your videos, Louis, I feel like your number one fan at times. When I was saying to you before,
you're too kind.
when I was preparing your notes for this, I was like, oh my God, my head was buzzing, and I was sat like reading all these things. Joe was with me. I was like, Joe, this guy's incredible. He's done all these things, and he's done this, he's done that. I was like, I feel like I haven't got enough time to chat to you about all these amazing things. But I get that dose off Instagram. So I'm like, wow, he's doing it again.
When was it we actually first met?
Oh my gosh.
It's been a couple of years now, for sure.
Yeah, we met.
So our mutual friends, India.
Our mutual. Oh, lovely girl, India.
The best.
Do you know, actually, I know exactly when I met you.
Go on.
It was at Neverland on Wandsworth Bridge.
Okay, let's not talk about this.
moving on. No, it was, it was then. It must have been like...
So so you've been a part of it. You've watched
pandemic.
these sort of challenges go, and take off, and the most recent one, the 7 marathons, 7 continents. You talk about challenges. That's the big one.
That is the big one, Louis. If you were to stop your career now, you've done that. It's like but I know you obviously won't because it's not in your blood to stop. But yeah, I remember when we went to Portugal and we were sat and we were chatting about all the things you were doing at this point. You had done Kilimanjaro because you've got your tattoo. Have you got your tattoo? Is it?
Yep, still got it.
Can I see it?
Yep.
Yeah, that is just, So, you've done all these things. And I remember you showing me that. I was like, wait, you climbed Kilimanjaro? You say it so casually, though. It's like, yeah, I just climbed Kilimanjaro. And I was like, oh, gosh, I've only climbed Snowdon. And I was like, it took me a good day or so.
It's still tough, though. Still is still tough.
Actually, I want to do that again this year.
Okay.
I don't know if I can do Kilimanjaro. But Snowdon just seems like a nice little walk.
You can do it if you want to do it. You can absolutely do it, and that's the hard part. And I see a lot of people on these adventures, and I'm in a very fortunate position where people are starting to ask for advice, and kids and young people asking for advice. And I say, well, if you really to really do it, you have to want to be there, because when those things get tough, it's back to that responsibility thing. You can't put the blame on anyone else. You can't put the reason you're there for anyone else. You need to be able to say, I chose to be here for whatever reason that may be, but you have to say, I chose to do this. Because if you're there to impress someone or to look good on social media, it's not real.
It's not.
It doesn't last. It doesn't last. And I think if you wanted to do Kilimanjaro, I absolutely believe you could do it. But you have to have that self-belief first.
How do you get there? That sounds crazy. How do you get to Kilimanjaro?
You fly to Tanzania.
It's Tanzania, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Kilimanjaro is an amazing mountain. I owe so much to that mountain, to the people of the mountain, because it changed everything for me. And although I was a sporty kid, I certainly wasn't adventurous. So that opened my eyes to what's possible, and it changed everything for me. It removed ego. It replaced it with confidence. Like the first time in my life I had that inner confidence. It did so much for me, and I owe so much to that mountain. That's why it's the only adventure I've got, on my skin, because it was the first one.
Yeah.
And being my granddad's dream, it was great to fulfill that for him. But yeah.
And that must have felt incredible, getting to the top of Kilimanjaro. Not many people can say they've done that. And you get to the top and you're like, oh my God, I did it. And like, you must have just been thinking of your granddad. He was with you 100%. And he must have just been so proud of you.
I hope so.
Absolutely.
I hope he's watching down on these adventures, and I wonder sometimes 100%. What he would think. And 3 or 4 weeks ago, being in Antarctica, I definitely thought about him a lot, because it's just the most incredible scenery, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more. But just think of him, and hopefully he is watching down and proud of these things we're doing, and because it started for him, and it's still absolutely for him, and that promise is, I think about it every day, and that promise with every adventure gets stronger and stronger, because on a personal note, everything I do, it gives me confidence that I can do more and more. So, and
you've got all these other missions that you have done that keep on backing up. You just back yourself because you've done all these incredible things. But like I was saying, on your Instagram, you post a lot about the workouts you do, the oxygen chamber. I love that. Yeah, you do. How do you prepare yourself mentally and physically for these challenges? Because you're going from extreme weather conditions to different environments that aren't just like running around your neighbourhood. You're doing quite extreme. You're going to extreme places.
For sure. I mean, this last project took 14 months, and that was to run 7, most remote corners on all 7 continents. And yeah, you're right. Each climate was different. I ran through 2 deserts, Alaska, the Australian outback, the Amazon rainforest, the Arctic, and then Antarctica. So they're all totally different.
Right, don't put us all to shame.
But just to give context, you've got the heat and humidity of the desert. You've got the cold of Antarctica. You're right. They're not normal conditions, and therefore my training can't be normal either.
No, of course. Who trains you through that sort of? You're training on ground you've never been on before, right?
For sure. And running a marathon in sand or on snow, it's difficult, for sure. And it really is difficult. And I can't highlight that enough. But I've got a wonderful team back home. That's the truth. I've got a great strength and conditioning coach, Jake. So I spend a lot of time with him. But it's not the glamorous training you might expect. It's not, I'm not running multiple marathons. It's this, that. No, we're doing like lots of stability stuff. We're like balancing weights off, my ankles and all these random things, because it's what it's about. And my goals aren't aesthetic. I don't train for a 6-pack. Certainly don't do that. But I do train to be as injury resistant as possible, because when you get to these conditions, like you said, they're so contrast. They're so different. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you look like. It matters, can you survive this environment? And that's what it is. Often they're challenges of survival, not actually challenges of running. If we look at Antarctica last month, there were moments where the wind picked up the snow, and the snow, it's like sharp. It feels like sand. I've never experienced anything like it. And when it started hitting my side, there was one point where I looked down because I thought I was bleeding. And I looked down, and actually it was the snow was hitting my right hand side because the wind was picking it up, and it's, you know, it's minus 25 degrees of wind chill, so it's really, really cold on top of the snow, and it's all these things. And at that point, it's a challenge of survival. Of course, you got to put one step in front of the other, but I'm not running 3-hour marathons. You know, that one was 6 hours and 21 minutes. Really, really slow, really slow. But it's 6 hours of surviving out in, you know, the driest, coldest, windiest continent on Earth. So training is not what you expect. It's 5 days a week, 10 hours of training, 10 hours of recovery.
Wait, 10 hours a day of training?
A week.
Oh my gosh!
So,
wait, where do you ever live?
So, well, that's why I'm very lucky to do this full time. So thanks to my sponsor, I've got a sponsor called Thomas Franks who look after me full time, which is amazing. And they allow me to, when I'm in my training camp, to focus on my training. So when I, you know, was doing the peak of training camp last year, I was doing 10 hours of training a week and 10 hours of recovery. And that was all at the Body Lab as well. And yeah, I'm very fortunate to do this full time. It'd be much, much more difficult if I had to manage with another job. That's the truth. Yeah. Because you have to put the time in.
You couldn't have a job alongside this. Can you imagine?
It'd be very difficult. There are some people who do it, and I tip my hat to them, full respect, because it's difficult anyway. So let alone on top of that, and you know, I'm very lucky as well. I've not got any commitments to, you know, to children or anything like that. You know, finding this at a young age has made things a lot easier for me to go all in, because I put 100% of my energy. As you know, sometimes I'm not being able to come and see you in India because I'm in training camp mode. You know, there's no nights out.
That's your priority. No drinking, of course not. I can't do any of that.
It's my life, and it's.
What about food? How you eat, and do you take a lot of that on board, your diet as well?
Well, diet's difficult. I've got a wonderful nutritionist called Christine.
Oh my gosh, Louis, you really are kitted out. Oh my gosh. I might become an explorer, because this life sounds quite nice, actually.
Yeah, you could do. I really think you could do.
All right, let's not joke.
I've got a wonderful team at home, and everywhere I go, I've got logistics and support crews. I never do anything on my own. I can't highlight that enough. I'm definitely not a one-person operation. I've got a team with everything I do, and that's the truth. But Christine looks after my nutrition, and it's difficult because you've got to sometimes manipulate your nutrition. And there were moments where, like when I did the Alcatraz, when I saw you
I was just about recently, to touch on this actually.
When I did the Alcatraz in summer, you know, I had to put on some body fat because.
Yeah. Oh, Louis, you're almost like listening to my question, and you're like, I'm gonna just answer it.
Sorry, I'm throwing you off.
I love it. No, you're not throwing me off. I love it.
But I had to put on some body fat because I was trying to do it without a wetsuit, and obviously it's already famously known for being quite cold.
Yeah, you weren't trying, you did it. Well, you did it without a wetsuit.
It was, and I think I was the only finisher on the day without a wetsuit.
Yeah.
So putting on, I think I put 5 or 6 kilos on in the end. It really did help.
That's when I saw you, wasn't it? That's when we last had our chat, and you were like, in the middle actually of just like putting on a load of weight. I was like, okay, how come? You were swimming. What's that? From land to Alcatraz? How would you say that?
So I swam from Alcatraz Island to San Francisco Bay.
Oh, sorry, you didn't fly. You didn't swim from the bay to the island.
Definitely didn't fly. If you saw how slow I was going, it did not look like flying. It took me just over an hour. So I think I don't know exactly how far it is. It depends what route you take, but I think it's about 1.5 miles. So it's not incredibly long, but it's quite treacherous waters. And
well, of course, because it's known, right? You must have felt like a prisoner. Do you know when they say those 3 guys just disappeared? Where did they go? You must have really been playing that in your head, like, oh, this is where they were doing.
For sure. And some of my mates were sending, the shark news articles and things like that.
Is there sharks there?
It's really famous for being shark infested.
What kind of sharks?
Well, there's great whites.
No, there's not. You're joking me.
I thought they lived outside the bay. That's what my perception was, and that's what I went into it thinking. Yeah. But then some people sent video clips of like there was one spotted in 2016 and things. And there's definitely sand sharks as well, but they live at the bottom of the bay, to my understanding again. But again, when I'm in that mindset, you just
say this so casually, like I don't know. It's gonna swim shark infested waters, you know. It's just part of the journey.
Well, that's where support crew is so important. So there was like a bunch of kayakers out there on the day. There's a bunch of support boats, so you're always watched and you're always under supervision to some degree. And
all these other guys swimming with wetsuits on, and you're the only one like, gonna do it.
It's true. And I was thinking actually, is being in terms of a shark, if you were to go for a swimmer, is it a wetsuit better, or is it like some pale ginger with just swimming shorts on? I don't know if I was more of a target, so maybe I wasn't helping myself, or maybe I was scaring them away. Maybe I was scaring them away with all the sun cream. But anyway,
you kept the other guys safe.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What did you do when you got, did you get to go around Alcatraz?
We didn't actually, because we started from Alcatraz and we just jumped straight in the water and then we
Swam
swam
back.
back. Yeah, we did. So, and then I think we were going to go and do the prison tour the next day, but it was fully booked or something like that.
No.
But that moment when I touched the sand, it was amazing.
You must have been like dragging yourself up the bank.
Because I got caught in a little bit of a rip curl in the last sort of 10 minutes.
What's that?
It was where the tide was actually going the wrong way, and it was like I was almost like on a treadmill but
Oh,
swimming.
my God, fighting against it.
And I was trying to do the whole thing breaststroke, and I ended up having to switch to a bit of front crawl at the end because I just had to get through this
survival, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
all training goes out the window.
Goes out the window,
paddle.
and it's survival. And
Yeah.
I was like, all I cared about was swimming across and not touching a support boat, just doing it on my own and touch that sand. That it was amazing. And I looked up, and Lucas was there, and he
Who's
just
Lucas?
finished as well.
Your trainer?
No, Lucas, one of our friends from school who joined as well.
So also he did it with you.
He was amazing. He did it. That was his first ever challenge.
Oh my gosh, that's quite a big one to start on.
Oh, amazing. Far more impressive than what I did. He started with the Alcatraz, so credit to him.
Oh my gosh, it's such a shame you didn't get to see the museum though. You think you've earned it, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Everyone else got a boat there. All the tourists are on their boat and you're swimming to the island.
There's always an opportunity. I'm sure I'll go back.
Yeah, you have to.
Not to swim, but...
Come on.
I don't know.
I would really like to go there, actually. When you're doing these challenges, has there ever been a really scary moment where something is happening out of your control?
100%. Of course.
Tell me.
You know, if we talk about the 7 marathons, 7 continents, one of the greatest highlights was the wildlife, but one of the greatest challenges was the wildlife. And two big moments stand out to me were being chased by a junkyard dog in the outback and being chased by a wild dog in the desert, or a pack of wild dogs in the desert.
Oh my God.
And bless my mates, they've heard this story so many times, but it's really, really scary. And when you talk about things outside your control, you know, wildlife is a big one.
Yeah, that's one. What? This sounds so silly, but how do you keep going, and how do you know are they coming to get you, or are they running alongside you, or what is that
not running
experience
alongside me? They were going for me, I think. And this was the desert in northern Africa called the Agafe Desert. It was the first chapter of that project. I was about 14 kilometers in, so this was like a brutal initiation to the project. Already hot, it was close to 40 degrees, really humid. And I was running on my own. I had a support crew ahead of me, but I naively, again, I make so many mistakes on these expeditions. This was one of them. I told my support crew to drive just a few hundred yards ahead so I could be sort of on my own when I was running through this desert. And if I looked to my left, I looked to my right, I looked behind me, there's nothing. You know, it was amazing. Yeah. It was just this totally isolated, empty desert. It was just incredible.
You could take it in for yourself.
Oh, it was amazing. And the only thing I could hear was my own breathing, because I was panting quite heavily as I was running, as I do. And then I was also hear my own footsteps, you know, just sort of grazing this sort of, you know, sandy, cracked ground. It was amazing. But then suddenly about 14 kilometers in, my footsteps were joined by other footsteps. And they got louder and louder and closer and closer. And I turned around to see about a dozen of these wild dogs just chasing me. And I would love to say I fought them, or I did something heroic and stood them down. But Molly, I'd be lying if I said that. I started to run and sprint, shouting for my support crew.
Did you? Oh my word. Did they have to come back for you, or did you continue running?
I was sprinting at this point. Mohammed and Rashid, who were my support crew, and my friend Chris were in the vehicle. They instantly stopped. They started reversing. They jumped out. And Mohammed and Rashid, again, this is why locals are the best to work with, because no one knows the land or the wildlife better, but they started shouting, clapping in this certain way.
They knew what to do.
Started to scare the dogs off. They quickly run around the vehicle. So I ran around. And for the rest of the marathon, whenever we saw any dogs, they started swerving the vehicle and, you know, using the sound of the vehicle, this old Land Rover, to sort of scare them off. Not to hit them, just to scare them off, and somehow worked. But it was really, really scary. And it taught me, you know, that was the first marathon of this 7 Continents project. It taught me you've got to take this really seriously.
Yeah,
like
because
you said,
your poor family back home, Louis. Did your mum not? Your poor mum must be like, oh my God, constantly worried about you. Because I remember you saying as well, you kind of cut all like contact, don't you? When you get to these places, when you fly there, you'll cut contact with them. Not rudely, but just so you can get in the zone.
I go by like a no news is good news policy when I'm on expedition, because that mode of, you know, that mindset of being focused, it is, because that mindset of being focused, you need to be totally selfish with what you're thinking about. You need to think only about you and your support crew. Nothing else in the world matters. It's just you. Because success is the priority with these things, safety and success. And because the truth is, if I go out there and I don't finish the marathon, well, then I can't come home and talk about it and deliver my letter to the PM and raise the money for charity. So success, especially for this last project, has been the only option. There's no option for failure. So we talk about, cutting a little bit of contact with back home. Once it's over and it's done, you let them know. But when I'm in that mindset, all I think about is the challenge. But that's not a healthy. It's not a healthy mindset, I warn you. So when you come home, I need to learn to switch, and I'm getting better, but switch back to being a real person and real life, because expedition life is not normal, and it's not healthy to be in that 24/7, because you're constantly on guard. And a big challenge with that most recent project was, I was in charge of the support crew. So although I was running, I was also, I picked them and I interviewed them, and I was also in charge, of course. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Where do you go to interview? Louis Alexander's looking for a support crew.
Definitely not. Put an advert out on LinkedIn. No, that's the power of the internet.
Where was my invite? I'd be great as a support. I wouldn't be able to do much. I'd just be cheering you on.
You'd be great. You'd be great fun. Yeah. No, I use the power of the internet, and that's why I think of explorers. A few hundred years ago, it must have been so much more difficult.
How on earth did they do it?
But now the power of Zoom and emails. The Outback, the way I found my support crew there was I found the Outback town I wanted to run in. I sent a message to like their Lord Mayor or something of the Outback. He replied straight away, "There's only one marathon man in town. He's called Grant." Sent me Grant's email. Grant was like, "Yeah, no problem, mate. I've just run 95 marathons. Happy to help you for the day. I'll take the day off work."
90.
And he did. And he was amazing. Him and this lady called Lisa, they supported me for the whole 5 or 6 hours. Grant was on a bike, Lisa in a vehicle behind, carrying my food and water.
He was on a bike.
Yeah.
And he rode alongside you.
All marathons, super slow.
This guy must have been ripped.
Yeah, he was amazing. Oh yeah, far greater athlete than I ever could be. But yeah, these support crews, you got to take pride in the people you work with, and you also got to put a lot of trust in them.
Yeah,
because when things do go wrong, say the Amazon, for example, I was running on the indigenous land of the Quechua community, who are an indigenous tribe out there.
Oh.
Yeah, which is amazing. But there's so many risks of wildlife there. And unfortunately, we didn't have any issues. But you talk about venomous, snakes, spiders, various other issues. And we were maybe 200 kilometers away from the nearest hospital. So if something goes wrong, you need to know the team who you've got. I had a boat following me down the river as I was running, and actually we got hit with the rainstorm, which added even more issues. I could see your videos running. I was like, God. Yeah, but you need to know the 3 or 4 guys in the boat. If something goes wrong, can those guys help us right now? Not can they get us somewhere? No, right now they need to be able to do whatever they need to do. Anti-venom, all these different things. Word. Support crews are very, very important for me. Yeah.
The Amazon is, oh my God, I'd love to go there. I bet the sounds were amazing.
Yeah.
There's a video of you running through, isn't there? And you're kind of like explaining, that's so cool you do that. It's like, do you keep your own personal diary of like, because of all these places you go, you've got to hold that close to you and keep these memories. Because, imagine when you're an 80-year-old man and you're like, oh, I did that. I did all these amazing things. And oh my God, yeah, you've got to definitely keep hold of those. It's nice to see your little diaries of each place that you go to.
For sure. I'm always, writing, doing these video diaries behind the scenes because, like I said at the start, doing the challenge is one part, but the ability to storytell and learn how to actually tell these stories so you can have the impact, that's the hard part. And I'm much more comfortable out in the Amazon or in the mountains than this sort of stuff. But I'm slowly getting better and I'm learning, and I've got a wonderful team who are helping and make it all possible. So yeah, definitely capturing everything I can, for sure.
Yeah, you should be. You spoke briefly about your sponsors. I'm intrigued because I feel like I've spoke to you about this before, but I've never actually asked you. How do you find sponsors, or do they find you? So you're with Thomas Franks, the Body Lab. Is there another one?
I've had a recent one as well during the Running the 7 Continents project called Gazing Red to Blue, who are a mindset company. So we talk about mindset. I work with them. So I've got a mindset coach there, and those guys are amazing.
So what do each sponsor offer for you? How do they all help you?
Well, sponsor as a full-time explorer or adventurer, or whatever you want to call this sort of job role, sponsorship is so important, right? Because a big priority for me is I never use any of the charity donations. So the charity donations go straight to the charity, and that's why these websites like Just Giving and things are so amazing, because it does it all for you. But to make this possible then for me at home, so I can focus on my training and my expeditions and my planning, it means I work with sponsors. And my main sponsor is one called Thomas Franks. So I'm on a full-time contract with them, and it's amazing. They're just the best, because it means when I'm at home, I can do talks for them. So they've given me my first opportunity. So 2 days ago, I was doing some talks for like some 10, 11-year-olds, and it was just so much fun. They're asking like the wildest questions. It's just amazing.
And you think the kids, like what you're doing, Louis, loads of kids would be looking up to you and thinking, he's incredible. You're the next Bear Grylls for sure. You're like the explorer, and it's like you don't ever hear of someone saying, my job title is I'm an explorer. And it's like, oh my God, like that's so cool. And it's for kids to listen to you. And you must inspire people so much, especially kids.
Well, you're very kind. I hope so, Molly. That's the truth. Because,
Definitely.
but I'm not going in there to, hopefully motivate them or encourage them to get into the outdoors or adventure. That's not my goal. My goal would be to hopefully motivate them, encourage them to take the leap in whatever world they want to go into. It could be music, it could be business, it could be whatever it might be, because sometimes taking that first leap is so difficult, and especially when you're young and you're a kid, you've got so many people's opinions, you might be your parents, your guardians, your teachers of saying where you should go, do this, go to uni, whatever it may be. But sometimes deep inside what it is, and for you it's this podcast, for example. And that's why I'm so proud of you, because taking this first leap is the hardest part. It is. It actually is so hard.
It is.
Because just getting to that start line sometimes can be 90% of our work.
Yeah.
Because we talk about all the planning, the logistics, everything behind the scenes. It's sometimes more of our work. And with these kids, I really hope when I do these talks that firstly they're interested, and I hope they are, but also that maybe
word. Without a doubt they'd be so interested.
Well, I hope so, but it's a real privilege to do that. And I look up to the likes of Steve Backshaw, Bear Grylls, Ben Fogle. You look at the amount of kids they've inspired. I hope I can be one of these people from our generation who fly that flag of adventure for generations below us, because I think there's an opportunity. I can't do it on my own, that's for sure, but there's a few of us, and I hope I can be one of those who flies this flag.
Yeah, it's so nice you say that. I always get worried, if I was, like I say, I don't want to be 80 years old on my deathbed and think, I never did that. I never tried something I thought about doing because I was too scared, or didn't believe in myself, or didn't think it was possible, or money. And it all comes into these sort of things. And you and Connor, I remember once said to me, you just said, the perfect time. Because I remember it was like, I just don't know when to do it. I'll do it then. And it's so easy to just keep delaying these things and putting them off. But I think you both said to me, the perfect time's now. Like, there's never a perfect time. You just go for it. So
you're 100% right. Sometimes there is no perfect time.
There
right?
is no.
Life I know how hard you work, and so many people, life gets busy, and sometimes our dreams often get forgotten. But every dream can become a plan, right? And it's how you make that step of how do you turn a dream into a plan? Well, it's possible, but it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes that faith, really, in yourself, in the world, to really go for it and take that 100%. Leap. But there's never a perfect time. The perfect time is now.
That's it. That's the line.
That's the one.
See, I can't say your quote because that's the quote.
You can. It's everyone's quote. It's not mine.
You worded it better. Yes, with that is just so true, because, like I say, it's sometimes not easy, but you inspire me all the time. You always inspire me, because take your situation, and that could be anybody, right? In terms of someone wants to do something, but you've been so consistent with what you want to do. And that is why you're so successful, Louis. As humble as you are about it, you are a major success. And everything you've done is so phenomenal. It's every time I see you, I just feel sorry for you. You must have to just run away from seeing me, because I'm like, oh my God, what have you done now?
I don't think I deserve those compliments just yet. But it's I really do appreciate that. But I don't think I deserve that just yet. I think I've been very lucky. That's the truth. I think finding your passion, or whatever it may be, at a young age is like the greatest privilege. And finding my passion at 19, and then be able to go full time at 22, that's such a rare thing. And there aren't many explorers or adventurers out there who are full time in their 20s, because it's so tough. And I've had a lot of great people around me, meeting these sponsors from day one. Thomas Franks, the Body Lab, I met on day one.
Oh really? They've been with you from the beginning?
From my very first full-time project.
Oh my God, that's
when I
crazy.
went full-time with the 17 marathons, they supported
must be
me.
So as well.
They're part of it. I couldn't do any of this without them, and they've watched the whole journey. In 2022 we did the 17 marathons, the English Channel Road, the Mont, and they just supported it all. And hopefully we're in a place now where it's me now that they support and believe in, and whatever I want to do, hopefully they'll continue to do that, because I have so much respect for those guys. And they're more than sponsors, actually. They're friends now, they're family. Of course
they are. They must be.
Because they're part of it, and their mentors, their advisors, they're so important. But there's lots of good people, as you know, our wonderful friends who've supported me from the start. So I haven't done any of it on my own. That's the truth.
That's a nice thing as well. I love seeing your comments. Everyone is so lovely, and is just so proud of you. It's like, it is just so lovely. Now I want to chat to you about your latest adventure.
Okay.
The 7 continents.
Mm-hmm.
7 marathons and 7 continents
Mm-hmm.
across the globe. So you've just got back last month from completing this incredible mission that not many people can say they've done.
Mm-hmm.
It is running 7 marathons in the most remote corners of the world. And from, like you said earlier, sub-zero
Mm-hmm.
temperatures in Antarctica to the humid and wet, rainy Amazon forest. You have just done this, and also, cannot even believe this, more people have been to space than completed the 7 continents marathon mission. It's just mind-blowing. What was it like to complete?
Oh yeah, you're right. It's a good fact actually, that, isn't it? Yeah, more people think of road and ocean as well than done the 7 continents. So for reference, it's called the 7 Continents Marathon Club actually, and this is one of the medals. I don't know if you want to bring it out, but
thank you so much for bringing these today.
No, they're yours.
They're mine.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. I did the work without, got the medals without the work.
So this is the most exclusive group of runners and explorers. You know, they say out there. And it's considered by many to be like the pinnacle of adventure running.
Unreal.
But obviously, I tried to do it in a little bit more of a unique way by running some of the more remote locations. So
where was your first marathon? Where did the first one start?
It's the desert of northern Africa. That's where the
dogs
happened.
That was the wild dogs, right?
Then we had another desert in the Wadi Rum in Jordan for Asia. Then we went to Alaska, to the Australian outback, to the Amazon, to the Arctic, and then Antarctica.
Oh my God, you know how mad
7.
that sounds.
Yeah. So it took me 14 months. It was a long, long project. It was the greatest journey and challenge of my life in many, many ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's all over now, and I'm in this strange period where these 3 weeks coming home have been very busy, but it's also this moment of like, right, you know, we talk about taking a leap. I'm about to have to do that myself, and I'm working on some plans for what's next. But I'm in that stage where I take the leap, so I know it's difficult because I can feel it right now, that pressure of having to commit and go for it. But I've still got a little bit more time, I think, hopefully, to talk about this project and have that impact, because it was a pretty wild one. And actually this letter right here as well in front of us is the open letter, which I've been carrying, and don't you worry, I'm getting onto that one. But your last marathon, yes, so it took place in Antarctica, and you ran what is known as the Antarctic Ice Marathon. It is recognised also, didn't know this, by the Guinness World Records as the southernmost marathon on Earth. Is it? I didn't know that. Okay.
Didn't you?
No.
I can't believe that. I told you, my mind was going crazy. I was delving into all of this. And like you say, it is 26.2 miles long. 26.2 miles, and minus 25 degrees.
With windshield, it was...
minus 25 degrees, Louis.
It's
cold. Baltic outside now, and it's 3... It must be 5 degrees out here.
Yeah, it's cold. I think that one, I mean, out of the 7 marathons, 5 of them I did self-organise. So that's where I picked my support crews and things like that. Yes. And then... the one in Asia I did with my friend and mentor Nick Butter.
Nick Butter, I love that.
You know Nick?
No, I just love that name. What a nice name.
Nick is incredible guy. He's the only person in the world who's run a marathon on all 196 countries. It took him 674 days. And this guy's a hero of mine, right? And I'm in a very fortunate position where now he's a friend and he's a mentor.
He's run a marathon in 196 countries.
Yeah. He is the goat, shall we say, of running. Oh, in my opinion, he's the best.
He's the absolute.
He's the best. And he was hosting a marathon out in the Wadi Rum Desert, so I was like, I'll tie it in for my Asian leg. But the other 5 I organised myself. But the Antarctic one, the only legal way, to my understanding, to run a marathon in the heart of Antarctica, in the mainland Antarctica, was this race called as you said, the Antarctic Ice Marathon.
This is your medal.
That's the medal.
Oh my gosh.
Medals are a strange thing. I still don't know how I feel about these little things, but they're a good thing for mum, I guess.
Well, I was about to say, these must have to surely be, Louis, sat on the mantelpiece. Like, you don't just get these. This is hard work and dedication. And you're so chill about it. I'd cry if I had this. This is amazing. Is this where it pinpoints where you ran, where you were?
So we were running something called Union Glacier, which was the camp we were staying at. And I ended up staying 67 hours in Antarctica.
Oh, so 67 hours.
67. So I wasn't running the whole time, but we had some delays flying out because there's something called the Blue Ice Runway, which is where you have to land.
Land?
Yeah. So
Wait, running? You land? You have...
as if when we flew to Antarctica.
Oh!
So it's called the Blue Ice Runway, and that's what we landed on. But the plane can only stay there for 10 minutes or so. So you get off the plane really quickly. They usher on the next people, and then it takes off because it can't stay on the ice because the ice is, well, it's just unpredictable. You know, there's crevasses, there's various issues with Antarctica. And, you know, actually crevasses...
So it's a challenge in itself getting there.
100%.
Is this the one that you flew 4 planes to get to?
It's a nightmare, yeah. Logistically, that was a long one.
Oh my gosh.
That's for sure.
This is just so cool.
But it was just an incredible race. It was just amazing. But we had like a briefing the night before from like a really serious British doctor.
Really?
And, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What did they say?
Well, they showed pictures, and that really throws things off because they were showing pictures of frostbite and all these issues, and they were saying like 10 minutes outside without your glasses or your goggles can lead to snow blindness. They say like 20 minutes outside exposed skin can lead to frostbite. Like they give you all these things that really, really scares you. But it needs to put that little bit of fear into you because the next day when you go out and run this marathon, you know, 6 hours, some people taking 8-9 hours. I think someone took 4 or 5, but you know, it's a long time to be exposed to these conditions, and you're on your own. You know, you've got a little bit of support crew in this, that.
Yeah.
We had 2 sort of what's the word, like sort of water and food stations. But, 5 kilometres and 10 kilometres. But
you stop it. Is there like stopping points?
There was only 2, so it was a 10.5 kilometre loop.
Okay.
And a few days before we arrived, so there was like 68 runners out from 28 different countries. So there was quite a big group of us.
Oh, that's
which
so
was awesome.
Fun.
Really cool. And they have to, the support crew there and the logistics team, they're from ALE, who are the people who run the camp.
Yeah.
And they have to take this sort of radar gun to check the whole route because there's these risks of crevasses. And they put these little red flags out of, you know, don't go past this point because this could be a 200-metre drop into the snow and all these big risks. So you're running, and there was one point when I was running where the snow got picked up by the wind because it just happens like this, right? It's the most unpredictable place on earth, and it just picks up, and I couldn't see any red flags, and I just had to stop for 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh!
So I was like, have I gone off track? You know? And
oh my gosh! Wait! What the hell? You haven't got your phone? Wait, there must be some.
It wouldn't work anyway if I had my phone.
Really?
I'm in Antarctica.
There's Wi-Fi everywhere now, isn't there?
Yeah, well, actually, there was at the little camp for the first time, actually, apparently.
Wait, so you've stopped at this point because you're like, oh my God, I can't see where I'm going now.
For sure. So I just stopped for 2 minutes. I let the snow suddenly drop from the wind, and I spotted some of the flags. All right, I'm back on track, and I just carried on. But
can you imagine if you just kept going for a bit?
You've got to be so careful.
Oh
So that's why you don't listen to any music. You know, you're so focused on it because you got to listen to things.
Yeah.
You know, and I learned that in the mountains. You know, you don't listen to music because you got to listen to the drop of rocks and all these different things.
Yeah.
And I've carried that lesson into, you know, Antarctica and all my runs because you got to be really, really aware and you can't switch off. So it's that balance of, right, go out and run a marathon, but stay aware of what you're doing and be conscious. And there's other challenges, like you're not allowed to sweat, for example, is the last bit of advice they give you.
Wait, what? How do you stop that?
It's a strange bit of advice, right?
That's a really strange bit of advice.
So strange.
Don't do what your body's meant to do.
Yeah. They say go run a marathon, but don't sweat. It's like, okay, well, how do we do this? Because if you sweat, your clothes freeze, and then that leads to frostbite and these issues again.
What's the answer?
So you have to run at a pace where you can control your temperature without sweating, but not go too slowly where you get cold and get hypothermic. So there's a balance, and some people will get in really cold hands, and you know that leads to issues, and you have to go quickly go see the doctor or various things going on. You know, some people are getting really, really cold, but then some people are going a little bit too quick and getting sweaty. And I changed my base layer twice actually during the marathon. I went into a little tent and changed my base layer because I had to stay dry.
And is that, I was about to say, what do you wear? Because it goes back to my question previously of how you prepare for each different place and country you're running and different environments that you're in. But also, what do you wear for this? You can't be in your big coat and...
Well, you'd get too hot, wouldn't you? So you'd sweat. So no, it's all about, especially in Antarctica, it's all about thin layers. So you wear base layers. I had sort of like storm trousers on, and I think I had a polo, and then I had a bit of a jacket on as well. Yeah. But you're constantly changing. So I was running, take my gloves off, put them back on, put an extra pair on, you know, constantly changing. Hats on, hats off, balaclava on, off. You know, you're constantly moving and monitoring and adapting, because you've got to manage your body temperature, and it's so tough.
And each of these tents, do they have clothes in them then that you can just change into?
So you take your own and you have them set up so you know what it is. So because we were doing a loop system, every time you came back, so it was 4 big loops. Every time you came back, you could change and do what you needed to do. because some people just needed to sit down. Some people were being sick, some people were all these things. It's scary when you're out there because it's real, and lots of people know they only have one chance to do it because it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a big commitment. It takes a lot of money to get there. So some people know they have one shot.
Yeah.
And on my note, I knew I only had one shot because this is part of my project.
My word.
And I was very lucky to succeed on the first 6, and I couldn't fail on the last one.
Do some people not get through that last one?
I think there's a few people who, they probably didn't.
And people on that Antarctic ice marathon, were they?
Why are you laughing?
Because you're smiling at me.
It's just funny you saying the name.
Antarctic
the full
ice
name. Yeah, you're getting the full name in. Are you an ambassador for them? You're secretly sponsored.
I'm actually going the next week to do it.
You go next year.
No. But with some people on there that you met running, were they also doing the 7 Continents Challenge?
I think out of the 68 of us, there were about 10 of us who were there for our final and 7th continent. So we all joined the club afterwards. So, our name goes on the website or whatever, which is quite sweet. But I was trying to do it in this more remote place. So I'm the first person to do it in, the 7 locations that I chose.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
You're the first person in the whole world?
No, not to do the challenge, but to do it in the locations that I chose. To do the deserts and
so there's not a set. The 7 it's not in set places in those continents. It's you choose where you want to be.
For sure, you can be creative. I think there's about 450 people have done it. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's about 460 now as of last month. But lots of people use like the more traditional, running races like say the Berlin or the Singapore Marathon in London, which is amazing. And there's some really incredible people who do it in 7 days. So they go, but then they run, but ends up they have to run like near the airports.
Back to back.
But it's in 7 days, which is just incredible.
Oh my god!
So that's why I decided to do it in the 14 months because. When we talk about planning these challenges, is I don't plan the challenge first. I look at what I want to do and I look at the impact and I work backwards. And this is like, right, I want to do something really big for dementia. Right, it's a global cause. How do I work backwards? Well, I need a global challenge. It's like, right, how can I highlight the dementias in every corner of the world?
Without dying as well.
Without dying. But maybe I can go there and I can run there and I can actually shake people's hands and talk to the Bedouins of the desert, the indigenous people of the Amazon. And, I saw firsthand dementia is everywhere. It's in every corner. I had messages when I was in Alaska. I finished the Alaska marathon. And like we're affected here. We're the local coffee club. It's affected everywhere. So, and I saw that firsthand by all these locals.
Where did you get? So obviously you got this on your last marathon. When did you get this one? In Antarctica as well.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I think that must be the only medal I actually have from the project because the 5 of them were self-organised and the other one was through Nick, so I didn't get any medals or anything. So I thought it was a bit weird to make my own medal for myself. When you're the only person running.
His own medal.
Yeah, because I was technically, I guess, first place and last place, on many of these runs.
Yeah, of course.
So I thought a medal would be too far.
Everyone's on their own journey, right? Quite literally. Yeah. Do you prefer running in the cold weathers or the hotter weathers?
Good question. I'd say cold for sure.
Really?
Yeah, of course. I'm a redhead. The heat's really, really tough.
You don't want the...
So the cold is a little bit. It's not easy, but it's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And I think in Alaska, 3 of them were cold in the end. So I had Alaska, the Arctic, and the Antarctic.
Yeah.
So the Alaska and the Arctic were meant to be like little sort of almost warm-ups and preps for Antarctica, and that worked really well. But they're still tough, but they're definitely better than the heat. That first desert in Africa, really, it just gives me shivers talking about it because
seriously, it was a challenge.
Talking no shade for 26.2 miles, we're talking about an empty, isolated desert, apart from a few animals, and it's just really, really tough. And like my support crew at the time, they were giving me water to put like over my hat because I had one of these hats that cover your neck. The water was just evaporating like that within 30 seconds. By the time I put the hat pretty much back on, it was dry. It was just ruthless is the word I'd explain the heat there.
Gosh, so cold. We'll stick with cold for a bit.
Stick to cold.
Now that you've completed the Antarctic Ice Marathon, are you going to complete its sister race, the North Pole Marathon?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's too
or
similar.
And you just can't say yet.
I think, truthfully, my running chapter is over for a little bit. I think it's time I focus on some other things. I think I've been very lucky to do a few things in the running world, and it's important for me that I don't want to be defined by a certain sport. And my goal is, there's some amazing people out there who they focus on mountaineering or running or something, and they're sort of these professionals and these experts in these sports. Absolutely. But for me, it's not actually about the challenges, as I said. It's about what's behind it. So for me, it's about working backwards. For this cause and this letter and what I wanted to do, I carried this letter in, the final 3 marathons, and, in the Amazon, it got destroyed. In the Arctic, I carried it in the Antarctic too. And for this project, the perfect thing was to run in these remote places and highlight the 7 continents. But for what I do next, I need to work backwards and see what makes sense. I think at the moment it's swimming. I think I want to do some big swims and pioneer some swims. But one day maybe I'll return to running, and maybe I'll return to the North Pole. But right now it's not on my agenda.
Cool. I want to get onto the big thing that's actually just happened in the past week for you.
Okay.
Which we've just briefly spoken about. So on September 21st last year, which is World Alzheimer's Day, you published your opening letter to the Prime Minister asking for £16 million investment into the diagnostics of Alzheimer's. Then this letter that you've bought this letter, but this isn't the letter.
Unfortunately not.
That letter you posted and you published online, you then took with you on all your challenges, didn't you, around the world since. And then...
I took it on the final 3. Yeah,
was it on the final 3 you took them?
Because when I published it in September, I'd already done the first 4. But I waited till Alzheimer's Day to publish it because I wanted to...
It was perfect.
And I wanted to work with Alzheimer's Research UK, who they were the ones who came up with the numbers, behind it. And it's important to work with people who really understand what's going on, because, I'm not an expert in terms of politics or research. So for that advice I get from those who know what they're talking about. And this is what they said is the big issue which needs fighting for at the moment, which was these diagnostics. As you said, 1 in 3 people in England with dementia are never formally diagnosed, which is devastating.
This letter is amazing. I was on my way to work when I saw you'd posted it. The way it's worded is just phenomenal.
Thank you.
Who did you write all of this? Did you have help from your team?
I had help from my team, that's for sure.
Because the way it's written is just phenomenal.
Yeah, well, I wrote something, and then they did the right. They put the right grammar in and things like that. And especially Harry, he helped with that one. He's amazing. And that line, that bold sentence is so powerful. And being able to carry that letter and use these challenges to highlight how important this is. That it's a worldwide challenge. It's a global cause that we're running for too. But it's time that we return home and that the UK take this lead in this fight, because we're one of the leading medical countries apparently. Well, we need to be part of this, and we need to do more and more.
And recognise that a bit more.
100%. And going to number 10 on Monday, getting a letter from the Prime Minister's office was a real nice thing, but it means nothing
until something's being done.
For sure.
Which you've just said, that letter that you took around your last couple of challenges, you then delivered that same exact letter on Monday, the 8th of January, to 10 Downing Street. Louis, you were invited to 10 Downing Street. I have been holding in, asking you for so long. I just wanted to be like, oh my God, what was it like messaging you? What was it like? What was the day like?
It was a strange day. It was, on a personal note, the closure to the project for me. When I finished Antarctica, there's lots of people out there who were crying at the finish line and on their knees and things like that. But I didn't have any feeling when I finished when I crossed that finish line, because I knew first of all I had to get home safely, but also I had to deliver this letter. So when I finished in Antarctica, I didn't feel anything, no celebration, no emotion. But actually this week, when I knocked on that door 3 times, I felt the real closure to the project, because at that point I've handed the letter in, but also the decision's out of my hands. I can't control the decision that the PM and the government make. All I can do is do my very best to raise this awareness and get people to sign my petition and all these different things. So the decision's now in their hands. And although it's the closure of the project, it's not the closure of my journey and my promise. That continues, and we go and we go. Yeah. But that was a special day, and we had about 15 minutes outside number 10 as well, which was amazing. So my team got photos too, which is great.
Who went with you on the day?
I had Harry and Anna join me, which they were brilliant, and we did some photos and some videos for socials and things, and we just try and take in the moment, because being outside number 10 is an amazing thing.
That's not something any lot of 24-year-olds can say they've done, and to be invited and to share, just to know someone's listening as well. And this is being taken seriously now, and the decision is out of your hands, isn't it? So,
for sure, and it gives hopefully that hope to me, and also to my team and sponsors, that actually, hang on, we can use these challenges to get big people's attention, getting the government's
Yeah.
attention. These are the people who make those important decisions when it comes to dementia and funding and research. So hang on, okay, we can get their attention. Well, if this is just the start, and like you said, I'm just 24, hang on, another few years, and 5 years, 10 years, what's possible? I was inspired with that by someone called Lewis Pugh, who's one of my heroes.
Okay.
And he swims all around the world for ocean conservation reasons, and he often fights for government change and for these big political leaders to listen to what he's fighting for.
Really?
But he inspired me to then try that with running and to write this letter. So
that is amazing. How long did it take you to get all your signatures for your petition?
Well, we didn't hit the 10,000. It's still up there, but we didn't hit it. We actually kindly got invited to 10 Downing Street without that.
That's even better. Sorry, is that not?
Yeah.
Does that not make you feel even better? That
well, it shows something went right.
You didn't need to get to that point.
Yeah, it shows in terms of the challenge, something's working. Whether it was I got home and I think within 12 hours I'd done the TV twice or something. So it shows things like that are working. The social media and people commenting and sharing, it really helps. TikToks. I've started trying to do stuff on there recently, and that's amazing because that's real and people are really sharing and commenting. So it shows it's working, and it shows without even needing those 10,000 signatures, it means we can still make a difference. That speaks
volumes. That really does. When you complete a marathon, what's the first thing you do after doing that? After completing a marathon?
Usually tell myself I'm never running another one.
Really?
That's the truth, because running is so difficult. And anyone who runs, it's so difficult, and it's never gotten easier for me. I don't know why. My favourite thing food-wise is a chocolate milkshake and a burger.
Oh, okay, let's speak food, because I was about to say, do you not just, the next morning you're just in bed and think, I'm going to stay in bed all day and just binge eat. I've earned it. I've done marathons all around the world. I can have a day off.
Well, I think maybe before this project, yes, because it was it's a one marathon thing and I'm done.
Yeah.
But because of this project, I've known I've had these other goals.
Yeah.
There's not been any celebration in any of them really, because when I did number 2, it was like, right, I've got 5 more to go, and
I see with that it's a whole thing.
I could never switch off, and actually the first thing I'd do was then depending where I was, it's right, I need to get straight back, and if I can do an ice bath, all these different things, and think about it. It was lots of these as well. Like I was just going straight into media, so like when I finished the Outback Marathon, I went straight onto like the local radio show and all these different things. So often it's straight into the storytelling and sharing what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
But it's when I think back to like the 17 days 2 years ago, that was like an eating challenge. That wasn't even it wasn't a running challenge, that was an eating challenge. I was trying to get in I think 6,000 calories a day for 17 days.
I'd quite like that.
Yeah,
that'd be a nice challenge.
It's tough though. It's tough.
Is it?
Because I was having to eat about 2,000 calories actually during each marathon, because you're not only refueling from the previous day, you're also trying to fuel for the next day. So it's like a real nightmare in terms of nutrition.
You're just constantly you must never be hungry.
No, you're constantly hungry because you're running 17 marathons back to back. So you're always hungry because you need food. So I was drinking like a litre of chocolate milk a day to try and get those extra calories in, and I was running around, eating paninis and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
So luckily eating's good. I'm not a really lean guy anyway, so food is not too much of a challenge. I can put the calories away, but there are some challenges when it comes to food.
Yeah, no, I love that. We're now kind of coming to the end of our chat, and I'm so sad because I feel like I could just sit and chat to you for so long. But I want to know, when we were speaking earlier about when you visit schools and you'll speak to people who are still trying to work out what they want to do, what would you say to someone who, I don't know, even will watch this today, has watched your previous interviews and thinks, oh my word, I love what this guy's doing and I'd love to try it. What advice would you give to someone who wants to follow in your footsteps?
Wow. Well, that's a hope that people maybe see these things and have their motivation. But my goal is not to necessarily inspire people into adventure or the outdoors. I think inspiring, I think that's a really difficult word, because I think it's a difficult thing to do. But I hope maybe people see the passion and the purpose I have for what I do, and maybe they can help find that for themselves, and whatever that may be. I don't know the perfect answer. That's the truth to that question. I think I'm still working it out, but I hope people can take pride in some of their things. I think when you can take pride, when you can take responsibility, it's quite a powerful thing. And the truth is, you say about finishing this challenge and then going to the next thing. It's easy for me because I really love it and I care so much about what I'm doing. And each thing I do just gives me more and more purpose and motivation, because they can just see things are starting to pick up. It feels like momentum is just starting to build. It's only been 2 years since I went full time, so
you feel like it's going somewhere, so that it's all worth it, everything you're doing.
I hope so.
Absolutely it is. It absolutely is. But I think as well, this whole chat we've just had today, that everything you've said in it is, if I was watching it and I was thinking I want to become an explorer, which I don't know, kind of still want to.
You could do it.
There's so many things in there that you've said today that's would make me think of how to go about things, of what things I'll need to do it, and what things to expect during these challenges, because that is not an easy thing to do.
It's not, and the truth is probably 90% of my work is behind the scenes, is all the logistics, the planning, the sponsorship, the press. So many things go into it. And sure, some people see, that finish line in Antarctica, whatever it is, and that's great, and that is that big moment, but it's the behind the scenes which actually define all those big moments. I always say it's those small details that define the big moments. So if we talk about actually maybe that is the advice, that you really need to really take care in those small details, because that's so important.
It really is.
It defines
it's all in your prep.
Prep is so important.
What is it?
Preparation.
Prepare to fail to prepare.
There you go. Well said.
It is in that, isn't it?
It's so true, and it means so much, because it's what defines these successes and everything on these challenges.
And lastly, I want to know, whenever there's a time of doubt or feeling unsure and feeling like you're not really sure why you're still doing this, but do you ever have a quote that you like to live by or like to refer to?
Definitely, I've got a few.
Do you?
My favourite piece of writing ever is called If, and it's by Rudyard Kipling. Okay. And it's a poem which my grandfather, this is on my dad's side. He gave to my dad, and then my dad passed to me. And my dad's quite a stoic guy, amazing dad. I've got the best parents in the world, but my dad's quite a stoic guy.
Yeah.
Not incredibly emotional, but what he did is he gave me this poem, and this poem explains how someone should live their life, the balance of life, being able to deal with triumph and disaster in the same ways. Yeah. So if anyone hasn't read that yet, I would highly recommend, because that poem is what I live by. I've got it up here on my arm, and it's that's the one there. It's so important. But I love the saying as well. People always say, what happens if things go wrong, this, that, but what happens if everything goes right?
Love that.
It's an important thing. I think sometimes, especially when we are planning and things, all these things can go wrong logistically. We've got to think about the snakes here, the wildlife, the rainstorm, whatever it might be. But sometimes when I'm planning, I also remind myself, what happens if everything just goes right?
What happens? And it does, Louis, because look at you now. Look where you are. It did go right.
I think if you work hard and you take those little leaps and those risks, I think sometimes things can pay off.
I love that. Well, like I said, Louis, I think you're incredible. You set such an inspiring example to everyone, even if you don't realise it. You really do. You have such an impact, and I hope people will be watching this today and will take away and just feel so happy and inspired, because, like I say, you set that example of determination, someone who's very courageous and brave, and also just you are a risk taker. That is above all. You are such a risk taker, and I mean, I'll continue always watching what you're doing. I'll always support you. And I hope in time we'll do this again in a few years' time. And then you'll be on a whole new level. Your £16 million will be invested. We're going to just manifest that now. It is going to be invested. And I'm so happy that you've continued getting your voice heard, because it has been heard. And just thank you so much for your time today. Honestly, your time's precious. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, it's an exciting chapter for you, and I'm here to support you however you need. And I'm proud of you taking this first leap, because you talk about it. This is it. You're doing it. So you're showing the example as well. No doubt you're inspiring people around you as well.